I'm delighted to be here again this week on Law and You on Independent Television. We're broadcasting live from Benin City, Nigeria. I'm Uyi Mofwegbe. Let's first of all put on record that henceforth I'm the host of Law and You, considering that Adesuwa Osawage, who until now was the host of the program, has been assigned a few other responsibilities that will unavoidably make it impossible for her to anchor the program. So I have no doubt we'll have a great time on the program every other Monday. Now today our focus on Law and You will be something that gives a lot of Nigerians concern, even though, however, most times it appears to assume too much of a political dimension, which is the issue of law enforcement, with particular emphasis, or if you will, focus on court judgment. How come that we have situations, many situations, as you see, where there's a court judgment in place and then enforcement itself becomes a big issue? To what extent does that impact on the perception of the judicial system by members of the public? Does it dampen the motivation to actually seek redress in court when you have situations where it appears enforcement of court judgments, in some cases very obviously stalling? I'm joined by a legal practitioner to help create proper perspective for this discussion, Dr. Patrick Awosaige. Thank you for coming on the program.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, you're a lawyer, you practice obviously. I mean, under your very nose, you've seen judgments given by courts. In some instances, in your own case, I mean cases that have to do with your clients, has there ever been any instance where you were not, for want of better words, impressed by the way enforcement went with such cases?
Thank you very much. Judgment in itself is appealable.
Okay.
Except you've gotten it from the Supreme Court, then you can say, well, I could go and relax. This is the final position of court.
Yeah.
If it's at the High Court, other courts like area courts could appeal to Supreme Court. So we cannot, at that instance, first and foremost, if you have gotten judgments in a case and you want to go ahead and enforce, and the other parties still have their time within legal rules to bring a motion of, or rather a stay of what you call it, judgment execution, as the case may be, on the ground that he or she or his clients or whoever is appealing the judgment. So that in itself, the law enforcement cannot carry out. A lot of clients don't know that.
Okay.
So they feel, I got judgment, and my lawyer is here, we have gone everywhere, I should just go on. No, not so fast. You have to go through the cycle, you have to complete the system. Now you must, if there's an appeal, you have to wait to hear out what the appellate court will say, and subsequently the Supreme Court. And when you finally get judgment, then you go on. So that's what we're talking about. So there are instances, flaws of men and the circumstances of the environment we find ourselves, which we cannot pull out the fact, we cannot begin to play politics with ourselves. That's the truth. Maybe whoever you put in judgment against is highly placed in society and is influential. It has all it takes. It's not as if the law enforcement are going to say no. They could come up with some delay tactics.
Legal technicalities.
Not necessarily legal technicalities. Now you've got a judgment.
Yeah.
For instance. Okay, you build, like you create a scene, let's make a scenario now that my clients, or I got a property first and somebody richer and where they are more placed in society, perhaps a senator, they bought over the property and they have built a big mansion and they go to court and it's the judgment, and now I want to enforce. And first and foremost, the senator have some ugly policemen attached to him and they move around.
So it's going to get ugly first.
No, what I'm trying to say is this. He have them working with him.
All right.
I'm talking about the status of the senator, the Nigerian senator.
Highly placed.
Highly placed.
Right.
Now, if you want to go and enforce judgment and you come, you don't just come like that. You must come prepared. I'm not saying it cannot be cured.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say, it will not be as easier as compared to someone in your own level.
If it were a regular person.
A regular person. So in this instance, you have to explore and put all structures in place. We had a similar situation, like you asked me, if we have suffered such with yes, we were to carry out an execution on a particular property. The high broad part of me taking over a particular property. And what happened? We had church judgment and we went all out. We had to involve the police through the court registrar, writing that release some police, it's even in the judgment. And we did all the mobilization, ensuring police come. Now, many a times people feel I have the judgment now, just go to the police station and tell them to release police to me. You need to pay for certain logistics so that they can come.
And you make that payment to the police?
Yes, you have to do it. You have to do it. We say, well, they were not preparing, they didn't prepare for your judgment. You came with that. And they are not going to use the money to fill their vehicles to convey their name to the scene. Because they will tell you they don't have such funds. If you say, well, it's part of what you have to be doing, that's when you will be speaking and talking there. And nobody will listen to you. So you have to mobilize them, you have to fill their vehicle, you have to bring them down. Now, we did all of that. While we were carrying out our legal activity by way of executing the surgeon, the man also came with other mobile policemen. They were all over the place, trying to stop the process. They called the policeman, what are you doing here? They said they are here to ensure they provide security for the bailiffs of courts and the judgment creditor to take possession of those courts. And that was it. And that went on. They were trying to, use their influence and power. Several calls coming and going, call me at Tintava, what are you doing? What judgment? This is the judgment. And we are executing court judgment. Now, it was an issue. They were almost saying stop. We said, no, we can't stop. We had to invite 5 police and everybody coming, It was like that. Eventually, we did what we had to. So it happened that way because of the character of the person that is involved, the highly placed nature. So that is what some of our people suffer. When they are unable to say true, they feel the court has failed. No, the court have delivered judgment. It is not in the power of the court
to enforce.
So if the enforcement arm or the Nigerian enforcement body, the police and all that, they are supposed to carry that out. If that is not done properly or it's failed somehow, don't blame the court. The court have given judgment. You can go back anyway to court. You can go back to court and say, this is what has happened. And then your lawyers should know what to do. And you could bring certain characters that have constituted a lacuna, hindrance to the smooth sailing of the said judgment to be executed. You will bring the court. No, and the court will now call whoever. It will be the commissioner, it will be the general police, can make an order another order of courts to further compel them.
Yes.
We had a situation where the general state had to go by the court to say the command. The court has the powers to do that. So if the court makes a further pronouncement that I'm compelling you to do XYZ, they will have no choice but to
comply.
Walk away. He's a rich man, he's some big man, nobody is bigger than Nigeria. We're all under this.
But is that the reality we have in the eye of the law?
It's the reality. Why we feel it's not, or why the average Nigerian feel it's not, it's because they have not gone the extra mile. Many a times they say we are being harassed by law enforcement, we don't know, and they say we should part with money. Why did you part with money? If you ask me, do they collect money on the road? I disagree with you. Why did you not say you won't give some money and then you are going to stick to like that?
But apparently you're talking from your enlightened position as somebody who is read and of course is a lawyer. Not every Nigerian has studied law. Not every Nigerian knows a quarter of what you know as a lawyer. Yes.
I'm a Nigerian first and foremost. Every American is not a lawyer. It's just our mindset. It's not about whether being a lawyer or not being a lawyer. I've seen people that are not lawyers, digging it out with them. Say, I won't do this. You don't have right to this. Even if what he's saying is making no sense. He's trying to tell you, I will not be cowed, I will not be intimidated.
Let me ask you something quickly. Your opening narrative makes a lot of sense. However, it leaves an impression that enforcement of court judgments can not only be, it's not only rigorous, but it's also protracted.
Yes.
Exactly. That's a whole lot of concern, isn't it?
Yes, it's a whole lot of concern. Now, we have the kind of society we find ourselves. By that I mean, we know how things run in society. Ordinarily, the man who has secured or rather got a judgment should just go there. And if you want to appeal, go on and appeal quickly. And when look at for instance, the election petitions, you see how it turned out to be. These loyalists of a particular party and the loyalists they are flashing on the streets. We will not leave the seat of power. We will not leave the state house. Government, nobody can intimidate us. We are going to appeal and then fight here and then. Frivolous application. And then enforcement. Okay, you cannot enforce what you want to say. The man is not on seat. What are you going to stay back? We saw that play out. Court processes have been served by bailiff and bailiffs have been beaten up. We don't want to honor it. Oh, it was not on seat. Okay, we had a scenario by when Barrister Dele, trying to get a house member back to seat. You remember? And now he had gotten judgment. Okay, now reinstate him, put him in his position. It becomes another issue. Okay, he couldn't come in. With this back and forth movement, he went back to court. It was at the point of court now saying you should come and show cause why you're not committed to prison. And I said, oh, they are already organizing that you should come back and they come and be sworn in. So what I'm trying to say is that just hold on the while, hang on, and allow things to go. We are not trying to say it's impossible.
Yes.
But because of the nature of people we deal with every other day, they don't want to give in or they don't want to give up so easily. They want to struggle and see if they will harass or intimidate and see if you scare you away. And you will even receive some strange call. If you step your foot there, despite the judgment of God, you will see what we will do.
You just talked about frivolous applications.
Yes.
Over time, we've heard that phrase.
Yes.
Actually, at a point, it became almost like a song,
Yes.
especially within the political space,
Yes.
where somebody had gotten the court judgments, and one would have thought the next phase of action would be enforcement. And then you see applications flying from left, right, and center. Right? In some cases, you even hear the judge categorically say these applications are frivolous.
Yes.
But what constitutes a frivolous application?
There are very many ways with frivolous application will come to court. Now, you and I in court, we know what's happening, and from the body language of the court, the lawyers should have some inkling about what is likely to happen.
Okay.
Then, other instance, instead of me to wait to see it through, I could come up with some injunction, kind of an injunction.
Right in between.
In between. Because you can bring it at any time.
Yes.
There's no legal time frame that you can bring that in. That, oh, this man, I know that I need to believe. And he's having a target. Look, because I'm watching you. I want to demoralize you. Your clients are there. Maybe you have a target to take delivery of certain projects.
Yeah.
Some machines you need to pull. And I put that injunction to stall you're going to get those gadgets or equipment. I said we want to wait until the substantive judgment is delivered by court. Why the application is to ensure that your business is grounded,
Wow.
your contract is terminated. Now, it's not because of, I know I'm going to lose in the final judgment, but I want to frustrate you so that I can box you to a corner.
Stall the process.
Stall the process, and then you can come to me and negotiate with me. That's the kind of frivolous application. Because it's going on where you know the judgment is going to be in his favor, but whether it's going to be in your favor, the bank won't give you the money.
Right.
If you cannot provide the machines, the bank won't give you money. So don't go about the machine. Leave the machine until judgment is delivered.
Start a different kind of fight.
Start a different kind of fight. Why are they doing this again? Then your lawyer come up again and say that you have to, and every application must be heard in court.
That's standard.
It's an application before court.
Yeah.
The court can say, I don't want to hear, just throw it away. No, the court must look at it. It's a motion that is before court. You must check it. Whether it's making sense or not. Whether it's trying to kill or trying to...
Obviously, it's only the court that has the power to determine whether it's making sense or not.
That's what we're trying to say. So it must be, it's there. And I know you need time. You don't have that time. So I brought that in to ensure I jeopardize your transaction that will earn you more money. So when you know that you cannot come and achieve this, we can stay up this matter. We can still be friends. We can settle it. Then I've been able to box you to a corner. Then I still start exploring further. After I've done that, what more can I do? I remember somebody you are owing, I can go and incite him. Come on, go and ask him, slam a lawsuit against him. You know, incite him to do so. I'm not saying that's a professional practice.
But you're looking at the realities.
I'm bound to
what could be possible,
and you know, some subtle wickedness that is done. Because ideally, if somebody is in court with you, shouldn't be your enemy.
Okay.
You know, because you could. It's just the best form of resolving conflicts.
There's a soul testing question I'm going to ask you. I mean, professionally speaking, but that will be after we'll take this quick break, and then we'll continue the discussion on the program. It's good to have you stay with us on Law and You here on Independent Television. Let's look at the situation. I mean, you made reference a while ago to the fact that Nigerians are not very enlightened about some of these issues. So that's the reason they expect that once judgment is given at 1:35 p.m. West African time, for instance, in fact, at 1:36 p.m., which is a minute later, there should be enforcement already.
Absolutely.
There should be at least evidence that enforcement is already ongoing.
That's true.
We've heard of situations where lawyers themselves advise clients not to renege on issues like this. They advise them to do something contrary to what's in the overall interest of the law. They don't care how unprofessional that may be. What's actually fires up that kind of attitude, as I mean, on the part of lawyers?
You don't even have the right to speak at the judge when the matter has been turned or delivered the judgment against you. You have to thank the court, and if you want to seek redress, you go higher. You go and appeal, not saying what useless judgment is that. You don't do that. It's against ethics. It's against the practice. Now, you don't have to advise your client against the court. That is funny, and that's we have an internal way of dealing with people like that, and it's not encouraged. Whether people have done that or lawyers have done it, it's a possibility, and whoever does that does so at his own risk, because it's misconduct. You could be summoned by the MPA, by the panel disciplinary committees. We have a whole lot of them to check and find out whether you did that or not. You shouldn't do that. And again, in representing clients, you must do it within the confines of law. You must not say, okay, well, don't tell them you didn't do that. Like, don't say, okay, you didn't. Just tell them that you were actually not there, whereas you were there. You shouldn't be doing that. Allow the judgments come. And then if you feel it's a criminal proceedings, for instance, now, is something that you could plead for locators, where the court could be spoken to tamper justice with mercy and reduce the punishments based on the fact that he could be a first-time offender, or you have a wife and children to take care of.
Depend on him.
Pray in the court now instead of trying to circumvent the entire process of justice. That becomes funny. And no lawyer should do that. And we don't encourage it. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. And if it has happened, and the ones that have happened have been dealt with, nobody.
So you're saying essentially it's totally unprofessional.
Unprofessional. It's misconduct.
Yeah.
Misconduct.
Categorically.
Yes.
Let's look at one core pillar of law enforcement as a chain, which is the law enforcement agencies themselves.
Yes.
Cardinal amongst them being the police.
Yes.
Are we seeing so much of synergy between the police and the courts? Because it's hard for you to divorce the two.
Yes.
Really. How much of synergy are we seeing on that front?
There's a lot of them. The police and courts, they work with the judiciary and the courts. They do. They comply.
I recall a situation that happened in 2006, 2007, where somebody had bought a device, for instance. I mean, really happened real like time in Benin here. Somebody bought a device from a telecoms outfit and became an issue. One thing led to another. The case landed in court, and judgment was delivered in favor of the customer who had bought that device, and then there was an award of cash, but it was running on Toto's back. I mean, the whole enforcement of that judgment. And the person had to go back to court.
Just like I said.
Exactly. Went back to court. I wouldn't know exactly what the timeline was, but I can imagine he had to stretch his patience beyond what he had seen originally. Had to go back to court for the second time, and then the court now had to do, I think that's what lawyers would call the garnishing procedure.
Okay, the garnishing.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to come to the office, the physical office of this particular firm, and had it shut down. In fact, I think they had to even literally remove the ACs there just to ensure that business was grounded. All right? Is that enough compulsion in almost every circumstance?
If it's enough.
Enough compulsion, yes.
To enable them.
Exactly.
They could go to a step higher than that. You know, the court have the power to do whatsoever.
Yes.
They deem fit in the circumstance. You know, like in the motion paper, you see that, and also other things that the court may deem fit to do.
In the circumstance.
In the circumstance. So you can see that in that phrase, it's bogus. So the court will say, okay, now, the court can make an order that the property should be sold and get back your money. It all depends on how.
So that's entirely at the discretion of the court.
At the discretion of the court. And once it's delivered as another judgment, as the case may be, it becomes sacrosanct, that becomes the order. And the enforcement agent, they have no choice whether they love you or they are not. You might be angry with the judgment or with the judge, but you cannot deny or you cannot derail from carrying out the judgment. The judgment has been delivered and it has been followed.
We understand that there's supposed to be a clear-cut difference between emotions and court's proceeding, especially where it has to do with judgment. How challenging is it to actually create that demarcation between both of them? Because it will appear people get so emotional when court judgment has been delivered. They get really emotional about it. Because you said a while ago that even as a lawyer, a judgment has been delivered against your clients. You're supposed to even thank the court for it. Exactly. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to do that.
That's the training.
Yeah, you have colleagues, for example, who are also in practice with you real time. Do you see that as the practice from day to day?
Practice. Even if you are faking it, let me know.
Exactly.
You can't come out and start. You don't. You should know you will not win
certain cases.
All the cases all the time.
Okay.
Then if I were in your blessed memory and said, and I verily accept what he said, that there's always a day, there's always a lawyer's day. You know, there are times that it's a bad day for you. He himself, he had had bad days, several of them. So you can't win all the time. So that you are not winning now, it's not an indication that you won't win tomorrow. If you have a bad case, it's a bad case. Okay, somebody had killed someone. What are you going to say?
When there's hard evidence, for instance.
What else? All you are looking at how best you could
mitigates the consequence.
Mitigate the consequence. It's there already. So we cannot play crown and start dancing around except you are deceiving your clients.
Lastly, just in 2 minutes, let me ask you this. We have plenty of examples, real life instances of how the court has sent out a bailiff with judgments to serve judgments, and then there's the excuse of the man was not at home, the man doesn't live there anymore, the man is abroad now, he's doing the course in the US or somewhere in Europe, all sorts of excuses. What is supposed to be the way forward in a circumstance like that?
Obviously, if you had done that in the Western world, that would not be possible.
Okay.
Because if you live in, let's say for instance, in England, you live anywhere, the authorities know you.
Yes.
They have your data, they have everything about you. When you move from the house, the authorities know.
It's on the record.
It's on record. So here in Nigeria, we don't have such record. So somebody could be at Ringo and is telling the world that he's actually living, or rather is in Madrid, Spain.
That's in this part of the world.
In this part of the world. So it's not a judge that will be running around the street to look for. The judge will believe every application that comes. Okay, this is the position now. Now what's it? Now the nature of the offense is another issue. We must understand that the nature of the offense or what you are the other party, the claimant or is seeking redress for. If it's something that they done away from him, they not being around, they come to also make such his house could be taken over.
I think if there's anything we shouldn't forget about this discussion we had today is the fact that Nigerians must understand that at every point in time they need to listen to their lawyers.
Absolutely.
They need to understand what the law says about every given circumstance and case. And you need a lawyer who is honest and thoroughly professional to be able to do that.
And again, they themselves ought to read, even if you can't read,
the basics.
To listen to news. Turn on the television.
Exactly.
A lot of people say they don't listen to news and things like that. So you should be acquainted with what
and I hope that lesson really it's learned.
To be informed.
Yeah. It's important. All right. So let's get informed about issues of the law, basically. But where you think you're at crossroads, don't forget to use the help of your lawyer. And you have lawyers all around whose help you can always use. That's our program for this week. And we at Mofegbe, I'll be back here next week, Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day.